Hello, it's Kevin Smith again from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. While scholarly books analyzing the Reagan military reforms are scarce, numerous journal articles are available and present a spectrum of opinions. Detractors of Reagan are plentiful, but there are also many articles offering a more thorough and thus balanced analysis. Many of these were written by political scientists and defense analysts, people who were involved in the actual nuts and bolts of military policy. However, quite a few historians offered an assessment of Reagan that challenged the academic orthodoxy. Unsurprisingly, these number of articles supporting Reagan grew after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the opening of its archives in the 1990s. John Lewis Gaddis, Andrew Bush, and Timothy Nichols provided insightful and fascinating assessments of the Reagan military program, which challenged the orthodoxy of the historical community in their day and continue to do so. John Lewis Gaddis is one of the most prolific historians of the Cold War. The New York Times labeled him the Dean of Cold War Historians in 2013. The Lovett Professor of Military and Naval History at Yale, Gaddis is best known for his work, Strategies of Containment, which is still regarded as one of the most thorough analysis of the American policy in the Cold War. Since 1991, he has authored several works on the period which are considered staples of the historiography. Foreshadowing his latter works, Gaddis wrote a 1989 article in the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists praising the Reagan strategy of taking a firm line with the Soviet Union in order to develop a better military balance. In Gaddis's view, the 1970s policy of détente was a failure for the United States because its purpose was to freeze the status of the Cold War, a policy which prohibited U.S. action but encouraged Soviet aggressive behavior. Gaddis offered as partial evidence the communist victory in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, the numerous people's revolutions in Africa and Central America, and the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Likewise, the ABM Treaty and SALT I merely capped the upper limit of nuclear weapons without making the world safer. In Gaddis's assessment, Reagan's policies and military reforms enabled the U.S. to once again confront the Soviets from a position of strength, and more so, challenge them in a way that communism could not handle. Reagan rejected the stalemate of détente and sought to contain Soviet aggression while encouraging real reforms in the Soviet system. Such policies produced a more stable and secure environment in a way détente never could. According to Gaddis, none of the positive changes of the late 1980s would have occurred without Reagan's reforms, which rebuilt American confidence and exacerbated a Soviet system weaknesses leading to reforms. Andrew Bush and Thomas Nichols concurred with Gaddis's assessment, but had the advantage of writing 10 years after Reagan left office and utilizing the Soviet archives. To be sure, Bush and Nichols do not claim that Reagan deserves sole credit for winning the Cold War, but many factors shaped the demise of the Soviet Union. However, Reagan's role in his military program were the essential catalyst for producing change. Both historians argue that Reagan administration correctly surmised the vulnerability and inherent weakness of the communist system, even when most academics did not. In agreement with Gaddis, whom both cite, Bush and Nichols found it bewildering that historians in the 1990s sought an explanation for the collapse of the Soviet Union that ignored America's role, as if the USSR was somehow insulated from external pressures and its demise was a foregone conclusion. To the contrary, Nichols and Bush both argued that while signs of Soviet weakness were evident in the 1970s, détente perpetuated the Soviet system and gave it time. In the 1980s, time had run out for the Soviet system, and its inherent instability led to its collapse. It was the Reagan administration that recognized the opportunity and the need of forcing communism to compete against a free market capitalist system, a competition the USSR was destined to lose. Gaddis, Nichols, and Bush effectively showed that Reagan's faith in the United States and its free market system would prevail, and thus Reagan rightly deserves credit for his role in ending the Cold War. I'm Kevin Smith, and thank you for watching.